this is Lori. Lori receives supported living services from Creative Living Options. Lori has a team of people that she chooses to work with her. This is one of the things Lori really likes about supported living. And these people help her design her services. So I believe that Lori would like to tell you guys, if she could, that she's against having an independent assessment by somebody who doesn't know her. And that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Thank you, Lori.
Hi, my name is Crystal Glenn. I support people with developmental disabilities and who receive services from Creative Living Options, as well as my family receives support from supported living. I oppose independent assessments being done unless a dispute occurs with the current IPP team. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you. Kimberly. These next speakers, I want everyone to know, along with Nicole, follow me everywhere. They spend more time with me probably than anybody but my staff members.
Hello.
Hi, Kim.
My name is Kim. Although you probably know me better.
Hello, Senators. I am Kim Williams, although you probably know me by now. I'm going to help Kim and be an extension of her voice today. So even though I have a high level of physical need, I live on my own with a little bit of help. My freedom is the most important thing in my life. With the help of my SLS provider, Harmony Homes, I hire, manage, and even fire my staff.
What happened to Josh?
Is that what happened to Josh today? The trailer bill language on independent assessment is crazy. I feel like the trigger on it is attached to a gun that's pointed at my head. People like me are and always will be above the means cost of 125%. While there is a magic, or until there's a magic pill for CP, I will need at the least as much assistance as I do today. As a voter, I expect you not to waste our tax dollars on useless assessments. And if the current language is passed, you will be burning $3 million per year. Heck, if you are that desperate to throw away $3 million, you can just give it to me.
Why don't you split it with Carl and Andy? This would be $1 million each.
Seriously, though, let's not waste money in these tough times. Please adopt California-supported living networks trailer bill language. Thanks, and I have some written testimony for you, too.
Thanks, Kim. Thank you. I'm sure I'll see you this weekend somewhere. Bye, Kim.
Hello, my name is Andrew Gamboa. I oppose the independent assessor. One, because they did not mention if whether or not there would be oversight and how that would affect the outcome. And if they were to say that I needed to go back to wherever I was, that wouldn't work. And two, I'm here also for those with disabilities that work, and the half-day program would not work, because if we all pay taxes out of our paycheck, so in turn we support our local communities. So by cutting us off at the halfway point would be like the community will suffer as well. And I get back to balancing my time.
Thanks, Andy. Carl. Look at that mischievous grin.
First of all, I would like to thank Senator Desani for all of the support that he's been giving us. To the Republicans on the panel,
To the Republicans on the panel,
personally, we are tired of compromising and jeopardizing our lives, or the quality of our lives.
personally, we are tired of compromising and jeopardizing the quality of our lives.
We ask for you to compromise with us and allow us to live our lives of our own choosing.
We ask for you to compromise with us and allow us to live our lives of our choosing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. I didn't put him up to that. Although he is a resident from Contra Costa County. Okay. Welcome. We're almost done.
Senators, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm with a day program, and I would like to speak about the half-day, full-day billing. I was a little concerned with actually, first of all, DDS, thank you very much. Did great work in trying to keep the cuts as far away from the consumers as possible. That is absolutely wonderful. With that said, I think there's still some work to be done. The half-day, full-day billing, I was a little concerned with the description that if we had 100 consumers enrolled, 90 were in-day program, that we were still making that money there. That's not the case. If a consumer doesn't show, we don't bill. So that's already there. If you can continue to take a look at the trailer bill language, clean it up. There needs to be language to speak to if the consumer leaves during the day. Right now it speaks to generally about hours served. There's a lot of things that can happen during the day. Mr. Hansen spoke to it earlier. So if we can continue to work on that trailer bill language, it needs to be refined. Thank you.
Jackie, you're back with a client.
I'm just a voice today. Hello, my name is Tim Fisher. I work for the STEP program for 13 years. And I work with I'm very proud of my job. I am a teacher. We teach independence. I work for so many different people with different developmental disabilities, behavioral, medically fragile, communication. I've really learned, wow. It's been very challenging, but I've really worked with them, and I've really a sense of pride because part of my job is to teach them, to make their choices. What are your choices? Yes, no. What do you choose? Earning money, where do you want to live? Where do you want to work? People come in and out of your home. You make those choices. We teach that person those things. So my question is to all of you, with $3 million, we put that aside. We're going to do this whole special independent assessment. And I'm going, so you're going to talk to the person I work with and say, that person, they're going to come into your house. They're going to assess you. Remember, we taught you how to make your own choices. And if they say, no, you don't want the person to come to your home, then what are you going to do? How is that going to solve? What problem are you going to solve with that? We're teaching the person to make choices. And if they say no, they're like, I don't want you to assess me. Okay, or what? I think the biggest challenge for all of us, in my heart, we teach that person to be independent. We do a lot of work. We meet, we do the IPP, we meet with the social worker, we meet with ALTA, we work on goals, we set goals, we do action plans, we teach. 3 million, you set that aside. Okay, the IPP is, what's the purpose? So we have this independent assessment, we have the IPP. Why don't we have it all in this one The employers we work with keep asking, the state is cutting. I explain about the state cuts. I explain why the money has to be cut. And we adjust. They understand. Now we're telling them, yeah, I'm explaining the state is cutting, but the $3 million over here, they're going to say, so what's that for? I don't understand. That doesn't have anything to do with me. So, okay, I have to try to explain this. They said, I still don't understand. They're forcing us to cut, but they're putting this $3 million for what? So it's very confusing. If you go ahead with this $3 million assessment, you're sending a real mixed message to the people we have been trying to teach and support. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
What's it on? Hello, my name is Alice Tapley, and I'm the executive director of a small program in Woodland, California, which is called YOLO Employment Services. And I'm here just a minute. I usually just come and listen at these hearings. I'm always here, but today I thought I would make a comment about the Trailerville language dealing with the half-day, whole-day billing. I guess I was kind of disturbed when I heard that residential services are saying that programs are closing for a half day. I know, and for me, we don't do that. And talking to a lot of my peers, we don't do that. I think this is an isolated incident or an isolated issue, and I think we really need to look at that. And if there is an issue with some programs that are closing and sending individuals home on a regular basis, then those are the programs that need to be taken into consideration and looked at or talked to about that. And I'm also concerned that there are no guidelines or standards set if they go home because of behavior problems or if they go home because they are sick or some other reasons. It's just 75%. We have a set cost, as you said earlier, that we have to incur as soon as we open the doors in the morning. That doesn't stop because someone is sent home for if they've spent 50% of the day. And another concern that I have because of this half-day, whole-day billing is the transportation. If you're looking at different types of modes of transportation, we now transport our individuals to work. But if for some reason they have to get on public transportation and they are late for work, are we able to bill for a half day or whole day at that particular time? I think we need to look at both of those issues and how one will snowball the other issues. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Well done.
Good afternoon. Greg DeGier with the ARC and United Cerebral Palsy. I got in line last at the risk of maybe you not having any attention span left so that I wouldn't have to repeat what others have said. I do want to repeat, though, that we are very grateful to the department for the very thorough stakeholder process and incorporating all the ideas that were presented that they seem to have been able to. And we're grateful to the legislature for creating that process and for giving us the opportunity to speak now. We have to say that we've given you language, things we'd like to change. We know it can't be done. Some of it can't be done without more money. And we would like to suggest that you try to find some. One way would be California Disability Services Association's proposal to look for more and assume a bit more. You wouldn't have to assume more than 10 or 12 more from federal funds. Another way, harder, but would be to go back to your original motion in Senate Budget Committee before they added another $25 million cut after that in light of changed services, changed circumstances. If you could get us back 10 or 12 of that 25, that would take care of our problems. I don't know whether you can do that or not, but there are things in here that other people have mentioned that would have no costs, we think. Disability Rights California's, for example, proposal concerning the education services, we think would have no cost. It would make sure that by having a dispute resolution procedure between the school district and the regional center, it would make sure that there is that people are not delayed in getting their services for 2 or 3 months while the two agencies fight about it. Since we don't think the department ever counted on such a delay, that's not one of the savings matters in here. Then avoiding that delay should not cost anything. Similarly, the supported living services proposal we think should probably not cost anything. When it comes to prevention, we think that leaving the service in the regional centers rather than switching it to somewhere else should have no cost. It doesn't matter much which agency provides it. We'd like to see it stay in the regional center because the regional center now has couple of years of experience and we know has the capacity to do it, so we'd prefer to stay there. Of course, we'd much prefer not to cut the service, not to cut the case management service. That's the service that when the overworked regional center service coordinators are able to do their job, and a lot of them have been doing it, catches the kids, the babies, as soon as they become eligible for the federally funded early start programs and gets them over into that. So we would really like to see that, and that would cost something more. As far as transportation, that might, fixing that, as Mr. Chesborough proposed yesterday, might cost some more. There are cases, even under current law, where we've heard of where regional centers are denying people access to a particular service on the grounds that it's not on a bus line, sending them to the other service, to the service that their IPP team believes they need and that they prefer, might actually cost a little more than sending them to someplace else because of the additional transportation costs. But we think it's justified, and not to do it is a violation of the Lannerman Act promise. Last point is, and I save this for last, is the fees. This is what our members have felt most strongly about of all the proposed cuts. And it's not just that some middle class or middle income, higher income parents can't afford another $150 or $200. It'll pinch some of them, but it's the beginning of a slippery slope. We see it as the beginning of the end of the Lannerman Act. We do think, so we are against it with or without out of sunset. We do look at a sunset as certainly better than no sunset, but we would ask that you do it a 1 year instead of a 2 year sunset. Mr. Chesborough originally proposed this on Wednesday. The Assembly voted for a 2 year sunset because most of the savings will come in the second year, not the first year. But if you make it a 1 year sunset, certainly it'd be the easiest thing in the world to extend it in another year if the state's economic situation is still as bad as it is now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, we want to thank everybody for coming and testifying. Terry, maybe a few things obviously came up in, if you have any comments about, I think the common theme was the independent, assessment, the $3 million, and we've already talked about the half day and the full day, but we're going to continue to work on that. So the independent assessment helped me to understand, I should say.
Mr. Chairman and members, actually the independent assessment was something that was discussed in the work group meetings. We looked at a number of different issues in the work group meetings, as Carol McKinney had indicated when she spoke. The idea of the independent assessment was really having somebody independent of the service provider just take a look, not do a complete service assessment, but take a look to see whether or not the needs of the individual were being met. The independent assessment doesn't change the services to the consumer. The decisions are made by the IPP team. They're still made by the IPP team. What the independent assessment does, though, is provide the team with an independent review. I think a couple of things happened during the work group meetings that were really interesting. One, we actually had consumers saying, we're getting services that while we really do appreciate and we really care a lot about our service providers, we had a couple consumers say, I probably could do with a little less so that my friends could get the services they need. We had people say, well, maybe just having every once in a while a chance to take a look at it would make a difference. We have a big variance in supported living services between regional centers. We have a very high end and a low end in terms of regional centers, to the degree that the average cost difference for the highest is 20% higher than the next closest regional center. So what's happened is supported living is a wonderful service, and the people you heard from here today, it's just a phenomenal service. I've been out to Jackie's program. It was one of the best days I've had in this job. They're so connected with the people they serve. They're just so bonded with them. And it's really not trying to change that. It's trying to look at how do we, as we've developed the system, the regional centers had developed it early on. It's very different between centers. How do we take a look at where we are, but make sure the IPP team drives the service. It doesn't mean that the service provider will change. That's not going to happen. The service provider is still the same. The IPP team's still making the decisions. The $3 million was based on an estimate of the assessment that we heard from the Supported Living Network as to what they thought the average cost would be, and that is taken out of the savings that you see in the proposal that was put forward. Understand, however, it is a very difficult issue. We've been working very closely with the Supported Living Network. I think a lot of the language you see in the trailer bill actually came from them. And I do know that they still have some concerns, a couple areas we think we can address. We are concerned that going to just the IPP team, because there's such variance between regional centers, you probably wouldn't see the savings. So I don't think we could score the savings, although I know that it's hoped that we could. So appreciate the difficulty. That's how we got to where we were. The work group talked about independent assessments for independent living as well. And when we looked at it, we all came to the conclusion that basically you'd be right back at the same cost just because they were so close in terms of expenditure level.
I think we need probably to work just a little bit on communication, I guess. And I think, Terry, you and your department have just done a marvelous job. I mean, in this hour of need, whatever our joint karma is for being here and the history of the Landerman Act, I think it really speaks well to all of you and your career choices, and Californians are lucky to have you. So I really appreciate it under these very difficult circumstances between March and today, all the good work you've done. And you know that the people who testified to that today would not have said it if it wasn't heartfelt.
Thank you.
It seems to me on this, just instinctively sort of responding to the comments, this is another, I guess, getting the porridge just right, going back to that metaphor. Having an independent set of eyes, so to speak, I think is valuable, particularly in a field that has relied on subjective, this seamless system of care, so to speak, between we, the providers, all of us, and the oversight, and the clients, and the providers, the traditional providers. But to Jackie's point, we just want to be efficient and effective about it. We went through hearings last year ad nauseum about the previous administration's concern about fraud in IHSS, where we get to the point where outside auditors are telling us we were at well past diminishing returns. We were spending more on on the oversight to capture the abuse than the abuse actually was. So somewhere in there, there's a balance. And it strikes me in this field, as you folks understand better than I, that spirit of cooperation that we've just collectively benefited from in the last 3 months, and the comments that you made about clients actually saying we could go with less for others, that spirit that I wish was in the heart of more Californians but seems to be endemic in this community, just that balance there. So as we continue to go through this, to the degree that the legislature can help with that, we want to be understanding, but we don't want you to feel that we want massive overkill, because I don't think there's a lot of abuses here. It's just getting it just right, and we don't want to actually do, again, first do no harm. We don't want to do things that actually cost money in the long run.
Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate that, and I appreciate your comments. As we work through the work groups, I think our system, as we've done this the last few years and the way we've gone about it, the best way I've described it is we have a bunch of Band-Aids, and we're covered in Band-Aids, and as soon as we get past this budget, which I'm optimistic we will, we've got to start unraveling it and keep the stability of our system. We're so fortunate. I look at a lot of my colleagues, and I'm so fortunate that the community's willing to come to the table, the community's willing to work with us, and we'll keep working with you and with your staff and trying to make sure the language has the least adverse effect, because clearly that's our goal.
And the other thing is this community, and I include all of you in it, is, clearly, I think, members of the legislature, myself, Senator Alquist, I know Senator Emerson, I know Senator Chesborough, we have an affinity for this class of Californians. And what's really wonderful is it reaffirms our feelings about this community, that people don't take advantage of that affinity, that it just reaffirms, and I'm sure for you as well, that you were lucky to have this career path. I did want to say, when you said that going out to Jackie's program was the best day in your career, I was somewhat offended. I thought coming here to testify to the legislature.
I said one of the best days. I had lots of good days, but
if I were you, I'd be completely sarcastic back to Tom as facetious. So I do want to thank you all. Senator Alquist, any comments?
good job, Senator.
Thank you. The feeling's mutual. It's because of our committee.
Yes, and again, thanks to Ms. Delgadillo, and certainly we have our work cut out for us, but I think the communication will really help, and we will continue to be good problem solvers in the best interest of consumers. Thank you.
So with that, thank you for those comments. It's delightful to have your leadership, your experience here, and your passion. So we have two motions. One motion is for the regional center item. The motion would be to adopt the May revision fiscal estimates for all items. Secondly, to adopt placeholder trailer language, bill language for all items. And third, adopt a 2-year sunset consistent with the action of our colleagues across the hall in the Assembly on the annual family fee. Fourth, to adopt supplemental reporting language on the prevention program. This is consistent with the legislative analyst comments. And that is unanimous, 2-0. Second motion is a motion for the developmental centers, and I want to continue to work on this, but I do want to just say thank you very much for all the hard work you've done. The perception, at least, was that we aren't moving fast enough, and I understand the sensitivity required to doing this, and I appreciate what you're doing. And I think having a second set of eyes sort of looking at this is not meant as a criticism of that or being accusatory. I think it's to look at clearly a second set, an independent review that will affirm, I think, to those of us those other people who may think that we're moving too slowly, that there are circumstances that need to be considered in that. So in that spirit, the motion would be to adopt the May revision fiscal estimate, and the trailer bill language for the Department of Finance review is noted in the agenda. And that is 2-0. And I have one more issue, and I want to thank our staff too, and hope that she can, never mind. Just when I look across from my window and I see lights on at 8, 9 o'clock, and then I hear that they were on at 3 o'clock, people go beyond the requirements, and sometimes I wish the general public knew the service, the value and the service they got from California public employees. But we'll keep trying. So the motion on this is, if I'm reading Diane's penmanship properly, this item 4200 on drug and alcohol, the motion is $5 million general fund funding for the Women and Children's Residential Treatment Services, and to keep the program at the state. Is that correct? And Senator Alquist, so that's 2-0. Thank you all. Have a wonderful 3-day weekend. I really appreciate the hard work and your patience.